Happy Devils Thursday. Sorry for the technical difficulties because it's cold outside. My hands are freezing. I can't control my little console to do the podcast. So it's going to be a little bit of a rough ride. Welcome to the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network's Woo Report. I am your host, Sam Woo. Today's episode is called Culture Change Needed. The more I think about it, we've been talking about the last 3 or 4 days about culture change. Pete, Maggio, what up? Betty, Eric, I see you in the Facebook Live as I'm doing this live podcast here on the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network. This is the Woo Report. I'm your host, Sam Woo, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube Live, Twitch, powered by Nova Product Design on the Primetime Radio Network. Anyway, so culture change needed. So we had Bryce Salvador on the State of the Fan Address episode 34 yesterday, and he actually went into detail about mindset. And I've been talking about it. I just think the players' heads are just all over the place, mass confusion. Coach doesn't have any answers. Ray Shiro's looking for answers. Devils fans are looking for answers. So we're all looking for answers. What's going on with the New Jersey Devils? And Bryce went into detail about mindset, and he attributes to his preseason predictions about the Devils fighting for a playoff spot this year. Obviously, they're nowhere near a spot at this point in the season. But he attributed to how the Devils had a 4-0 lead in the first game. Cory Schneider goes down with cramps, and it just all fell apart there. Now, that's not the sole reason why the Devils' mindset is all over the place, but he talked from a player's perspective in the interview on State of the Fan Address that was the first domino to fall. That the team was up 4-0. Everything looked so good. The crowd was rocking. And then it fell apart when Cory went down. They go into Buffalo the next day, and we held a live event at Grasshopper in Morristown. And, yeah, they had a big stinker. They lost that game. And then from there, it just kind of compounded. And it just tells you how important and how it is that, if your head's not in it and you're not confident, and obviously the players are talented, but they're just not coming together. They're not putting it together right. It doesn't matter who you trade for or what free agents that you bring in to remedy the problem. And a culture change is needed. And we discussed about possible player moves, including trading Taylor Hall and Sami Vatanen to change it up, to change the culture. And the more I thought about it during the interview, as Bryce is giving insight, look, Taylor Hall is very talented. He's a great player. I would love for him to stay and have success in New Jersey, but he may not be the right player at this right time. Because right now, the Devils are sellers right now, and they've got some very good chips to trade and get a lot of value in return. And when you're hearing about first-round draft picks for the future, it may be timed to blow it up, but not entirely. You've got a core nucleus in Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes. PK Subban, you can't really move him. I mean, as what Nick Villano alluded to, you rolled out the red carpet for PK when he had that, introduction to the fans. I mean, it was in style. Betty writes, I don't think we should trade Sammy. Now, are you talking about me or the other Sami Vatanen? Because if you're talking about the other Sami Vatanen, it's spelled S Sammy, whereas I am Sammy. If you don't want to trade me, that's great. If you don't want to trade Sammy with an I, that's great. But I know the people on YouTube Live want to trade me. They want to trade me for a bag of pucks at this point. They've been pretty nasty to me. Anyway, on with the podcast. A culture change is just needed, and is what Bryce alluded to, that you don't want to trade Taylor Hall or Sammy, but maybe that's what it's going to take to wake everybody up, to change the culture. And it's not their fault entirely. Everybody's at fault. But we can't just start pointing fingers at John Hines or Ray Shero or this player that's not playing well. Okay? It's a team effort. And maybe the fans ourselves should change our mindset. I mean, we are a tough fan base. I think Steve Cangelosi put out a tweet earlier, and I'm going to get to it right now. And I thought it was a good tweet, and I'll actually respond to that through a tweet ourselves on our Facebook page. And let me just try to pull it up, a Steve Cangelosi tweet. I'm just trying to get to his Twitter account. I think it's Kanjiman MSG or something like that. Let me look it up. Yep, Kanjiman MSG, at Kanjiman MSG. He goes, what Pete DeBoer and John Hines have in common, both vilified by Devils fans in the final weeks and months to their firings, both excellent coaches, which I agree. I'll be shocked if both aren't NHL head coaches by summer 2020. My response to that, to Steve Cangelosi, is you're right. They are both excellent coaches. They have something in common. Vilified by Devils fans? Well, let me just say it's also a positive thing, that if you can make it in Jersey, you can make it anywhere. And I take that as a compliment from Steve Cangelosi. Anyway, so I will retweet that on our at Let's Go Devils Pod Twitter account. And I just did it right now. But all along social media, I've seen that people are talking about Peter DeBoer, an encore in New Jersey. Look, I've never been a big fan of second tour of duty with teams, unless you left on a high note, meaning you won a Stanley Cup and then you retired and then you realize you're bored and you have nothing to do, and then you come back out of retirement and try to win another Stanley Cup. That's different. But I've just never been a big fan of second tour of duty. And as what Bryce and Nick pointed out yesterday on State of Fan Address, okay, you have a Peter DeBoer, but is he the right coach for this young team? This team is going to get younger. It's inevitable that veterans are going to get traded so Ray Shero can restock Binghamton with young prospects and talent that could eventually get to the big club. Right now, Binghamton sucks, just like the Devils. They're not doing very well. This is a big problem. But first, it starts with changing up the mindset, because winning solves everything. We've said that many times here on the Let's Go Devils Podcast Network, on all the podcasts. And Pete writes, how about changing the captaincy? Could that help the culture change based on Bryce yesterday? Go Hall, Palms, and Nico. Sorry to say to Andy Green, that may have to happen. I like to wait after the season for it to happen. I mean, right now we're in the tank. Not saying that we're purposely trying to lose games. I don't believe in that. And that actually, I'd be a hypocrite wanting a culture change if we're tanking. Tanking means losing and not putting your players in best positions to win. I don't believe in that. But what I do believe in is these are hard conversations that the Devils organization is going to have to have. Do you change the captaincy? Do you strip Andy Green? But who do you put in place? I mean, there are a lot of great candidates out there. And what message do you want to send to potential free agents that would be coming in? what the Devils do now sets up the future, both short term and long term. And you just hope that they take a positive approach and say, look, we got a bunch of lemons right now, but let's make some lemonade out of it. Let's do something productive. But the Devils have to start showing up because they didn't show up the last game. And that's a big problem. And that's something that Devils fans should not even tolerate, especially the amount of money that we have invested in our season tickets or single game tickets to go watch our favorite team. I expect winning. It's all about winning, but it's also about winning with the community. And everybody's got to step up their game. Organist Pete, he better start playing those tunes and be in sync with Arlette when they do the national anthem. Arlette's voice, it's got to be better than ever. Kevin Clark, he's going to have the stamina to announce those goals that the Devils are scoring, right? Dancing Earl, he better start dancing some more. Sam Wu, I maybe have to podcast some more positive podcasts instead of all the negativity that's been going around. I'm at fault too. See, that's what we call accountability, folks. And that's what the Devils players need to get into their heads. Accountability. As I'm doing this live podcast on my lunch break, I need to lose a little weight, so you know, doesn't it's not going to hurt for not eating for another half an hour. But anyway, things need to change. Culture change is needed, but it also starts up top. I like to see ownership group Joshua Harris and David Blitzer. I know they're great at their day jobs, but I would kind of like to see them be more hands-on because it would mean a lot to the fans. It probably would mean a lot to the players. Now, there are some people that think that owners should stay in the owner's box and let things go. But you know what? In this case, I would like to hear Joshua Harris talk about the team, not from a business sense of how he feels about what's going on. Hey, maybe start rewarding players. Like, hey, you get a free helicopter ride if you block a lot of shots, Miles Wood, on the penalty kill. Blake Coleman got 2 shorthanded goals for us. All right. Yeah, you can take the helicopter, back home. Little things to reward the team for doing the right things that add up to building a Stanley Cup champion. Yeah, thank you for joining my podcast. This is going to be interesting because I lost control of my board and I don't know how to stop the stream and all that. So I'm going to BS a little bit more. But I just want to also say that the Let's Go Devils podcast, when we first started this network, really just a podcast, started from my wife's couch while I had surgery. And that's how this whole thing started because I needed an outlet because I wasn't impressed at how the team was doing. This is before Nico was drafted. Um, I just want to say that we're about to approach over 40,000 downloads. Probably going to happen in the next either a couple hours or a couple days, depending upon who's listening to the podcast. And I want to thank everybody that's involved because honestly, without the fans, we are unable to do this. And we love meeting you at our live events. And it's been a real privilege to be part of this community where we get to talk to players, 3 guys at a bar essentially, and yeah, and it's been great. It's been great doing these Woo reports, doing these live podcasts, meeting Erica Wachter, Bryce Salvador, Steve Cangelosi, Doc Emmerich. We've had on before in the past, and Graham Marshall, Colin White, Bruce Driver, uh, uh, anybody. I mean, on the Woo Report, we just tell it how it is, and we really appreciate the comments. YouTube Live, as much as you guys hate me, can you tone it down with the rhetoric? I mean, come on. I mean, you blame me for everything. I mean, one guy blamed me yesterday for the Devil's woes because I wore a Penn State hat, and And somehow he tried to connect that to Jerry Sandusky, that monster. Look, that was inappropriate. It had nothing to do with it. All right. But if you're going to stick to the woo bashing and all that, keep it Devils related. All right. That's what I say. Always keep it Devils related and keep the hits clean. We like hard hits, but we want to keep the hits clean because, you see what happens in some of these Facebook groups where there's debates, certain admins being communists. Stop it. They're not communists. They just want to have a good conversation that doesn't involve any type of vulgarness. Anyway, I'm trying to cue up the music. If I don't, then we're going to have no music going out, but hopefully I can get this thing going. Yeah. Oh, I got it. Well, I finally did something right. This is the Woo Report. Culture change needed. Till next time, Devils fans, let's go Devils.